Get ready. Come on. Get ready. Hey. Get ready for Betty and Michelle, Phyllis and Stephanie. There's a new show called Good Grief, Good Gossip, Good God, called it G3. Education, celebration, transparency. There's no subject they won't tackle if it uplifts you and me. Good grief, good gossip, good God, G3.
Good evening and welcome to another episode of Good Grief, Good Gossip, and Good God. We are excited again to see everyone and for you all to join us for another awesome episode as we talk about our sheroes. Those are the people who have poured into all of our lives and are those key people who have made us who we are today. But before we get into the show, I want to introduce my wonderful co-hosts who are here with me again this week. The beautiful Miss Stephanie Lackey with her beautiful print song. Y'all see we got our theme going on this evening. The beautiful Betty Baye and my beautiful sister, Miss Phyllis Clark. As I mentioned, today we are talking about heroes. Those are the people that each of us can clearly say made a difference in our lives. They're the reason that we are sitting here today and sharing our stories with you all and helping you all to be very transparent through us and what we've lived through in our lives. So today we are going to talk about those people, who they've been. And there's a difference. I'm going to read the definition of hero here in just a moment, but our sheroes for us are the females in our lives. I know we all have females and males that have molded us into the people that we are, but today we're going to talk about those key women in our lives who are the reasons why we are who we are today. I'm going to start off, as Miss Betty was telling me the other day, let's just talk about the definition of what a hero is. A hero is, I'm going to have to read it here, a person who is admired or idealized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. And I'm sure all of us has that one person that comes to mind that is admired, and the person that that's just that one go-to person, or that was the it for us. That's always a good way of putting it. I will kick things off before I get to my sisters here on the show and tell you, Stephanie and I were kind of talking about who our sheroes were before we went on air, and where some of us have one person, some of us may have multiple sheroes, but for me, it's two parts. My number one, an all-time shero in my life is going to always be my mom. My mom is the person, she's my rock. You all have heard me talk about her many times. She's the wind beneath my wings. She a single mom who had me in high school, but my grandparents helped to raise me so my mom could finish college and help me to be the woman that I am today. And just her determination to finish school and still raise me and make sure that I was able to attend college as a single parent makes her my number one shero of all time. It's just what she instilled in me about God, going to church, my faith, always putting God first. And to this day, she has my back. When you see M3 rolling around the city or doing things, my mom is probably behind the scenes helping me to make things happen. So I know she'll be watching this episode, so I love her dearly. I want her just to remind her, I may not tell her enough, but I love and appreciate everything that she's done and sacrificed to make me who I am. Right behind her, I would have to say, is my grandmother. They are twofold to me, because if it wasn't for my grandmother, my mother wouldn't be who she is today to make me who I am today. So my grandmother helped to sacrifice so my mom could live her dreams as far as going to college and starting her career and things of that nature. So those are my two sheroes to get our show kicked off. I'm going to turn things over to Stephanie, and let's talk about who your shero is today.
Wow, I think there's going to be a common theme here with today's Shero episode, because it would be remiss if I did not say I have a lot of Sheros, but I have to go back to the roots of my foundation of how I became the woman that I am today. And it goes all the way back to my mom, who at 28 decided, I know I can't have children, but I know I want children. So she was a special mom because she decided at 28 she wanted to adopt, right? So I was the child that she first adopted. There was three of us, and I was the only girl. And so earlier on, I mean, she just loved on me and raised me in the church. I mean, there was no option. Back then, you were drugged to church. I mean, we was in church 24/7, 7 days a week. You were in ministry, starting with the children's ministry. You were in Bible study during the summer. So I grew up and I knew nothing but God breathed God. So that just continued through, of course, junior high, grade school, junior high, high school, college. It just was instilled into me and just keeping me grounded, right? And loving me from a deeper love level. You know, your mom's love is always at a deeper level. It's just nothing like a mom's love. Just being there for me when I was bullied or teased because I was always different. I looked different. I didn't look like anyone. Just being that comforter and telling me that I will always, I see I'm getting choked up talking about it, but always would make it in life, always would be successful. I was the first one to graduate from college, and she was always that one encouraging me that I could do it no matter what it was. She was my first person in my life that I saw as a Black woman working out daily, diligently. She had her way of working out. She was a walker and a runner, and I tried. That wasn't my gift. My thing is cycling. So just her encouragement, instilling morals and values in me. And she said, even though, your dad is here and I'm married, I am a independent woman. If he was to leave me today, I would be independent. I would be able to survive. I need you to be able to survive no matter what situation that you're in. You're going to know how to cook. You're going to know how to take care of your own. You're going to be a homeowner before you get married. I mean, she instilled all of that into me. So I just thank her. She's in heaven now watching over me. And I hear a lot of times just her speaking to me and guiding me when I have my low moments. So I would be remiss if I did not say it was her. There's a lot of women in my life now that are my replacement moms as she is in heaven. But I would say she is my number one all-time Shero. And I'm going to volley it over to Miss Phyllis.
Stephanie, I love before Phyllis jumps in how you called her your special mom, how she's watching over you in heaven. I think a lot of us have special moms and special Sheros in our lives who have helped us outside of our maternal mothers. But I really love how you called her your special mom.
For
Phyllis?
sure, yeah.
I do too, Stephanie. Wow, this is a beautiful subject. I'm so glad we're just sharing like this. I know Mother's Day has passed, but to me, Mother's Day is every day. And, I think about my mom right now. And of course, she is my Shero that I want to speak about. Her name is Jo. And I remember when I first learned my mom's name, I was like, Jo, what's Jo? Why is her name Jo? Why did her mother name her Jo? So we had these, you can imagine being 3 or 4 and learning my mom's name and wondering about that, or 5 or something like that. But you know what? My mother is someone, we talk just about every day. She is 20 years my senior. And I figured out that I was in my parents' wedding, and I saw a picture in my home once. And I think I was about 8 or 9, maybe 10. And I started to feel like I knew some things. And so I was like, Mom, you were a thin person in all the other pictures. What's going on in this? So we had to have that conversation. Phyllis, you were a part of the wedding. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I figured stuff out. But we grew up sharing our hearts, and she would always tell me, and I tell my girls now, that nothing is off limits. Regardless of what you're going through, what you're thinking, what you're feeling. And I was just always so inspired by my mother, because she loved to take risks. She was an entrepreneur. She started my interest in higher education. I saw her start school as a non-traditional student at the HBCU in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. And I noticed how, people typically learn to drive when they're, younger, right? Well, my mother didn't know how to drive until she was after, I want to say it was between 25 and 30. And so my dad used to take us places just everywhere. And so one day I said, Mom, when are you going to start driving? And she said, "Oh, I don't know. As soon as I get these eyes fixed." She would always, because she couldn't, her vision wasn't, to where she wanted it to be able to drive. And one day she just set out on a course to correct all of that. And so I appreciate the strength and the intestinal fortitude that she offers, and just y'all, the way she grandmothers. It is truly something to see my mom be a grandmother to my daughters, because they are truly getting all of it. And when I say all of it, I mean all of it. And it's the stuff that I never got, right? So, an interesting journey that my mother and I have taken. She has been an amazing blessing, not just for me, but for plenty other people in our family, in our community, and so many others. And so I know we're going to kind of come back and forth with our stories a little bit. So I want to stop here for just a minute and throw it over to Dr. Betty, who is your Shero. And I have some more Sheros too, but I'll wait and bring them up in a minute if there's enough time.
And before we get to Dr. Betty, we're going to break for the cause just for one moment. Right after these messages, we're going to come back and pick up with the Miss Betty Bae. Yes.
Hi, my name is Dr. Crystal Narcisse. I practice internal medicine and pediatrics with Norton Healthcare, and I'm also the co-director for community outreach. We're here today to debunk a few things about women's health.
Hello, my name is Lucretia Sewell, and I'm a women's health nurse practitioner. I'm here along with Dr. Narcisse today. So we have a jar here that we're going to get started with to talk about some of the myths that are out there. This myth is bras cause breast cancer. There is no scientific evidence that bras can actually cause breast cancer. I know there was a study or a book that came out that supported that, but no actual scientific evidence that bras cause breast cancer.
My provider doesn't want to know about my personal life. That is not true. I have a lot of patients who come to see me for their blood pressure, for their diabetes, and they have things that are going on. Sometimes they're depressed or anxious, and that actually affects your health. So I do want to know about your personal life.
This myth says period pain is normal, even if it is debilitating. That is not actually true. There could be underlying conditions such as endometriosis that may need to be explored, or just other conditions such as ovarian cyst, or just other conditions that could be causing this to occur. So debilitating pain with your periods is not actually normal. You definitely want to talk to your provider and be evaluated.
Routine checkups are unnecessary. Totally not true. I'm a firm believer in getting your physical every year. A lot of times I will find something that a patient doesn't even know that they have. A lot of times you can have high blood pressure and not know that you have it, or have diabetes and not know that you have it. So it's always good to see your doctor once a year.
This myth is, if I don't have symptoms, I don't have an STD. That is absolutely false. You can totally have an STD and be asymptomatic, without symptoms. So it is very important that you get screened routinely, especially if you're 25 and under, or you're engaging in high-risk sexual activity.
As women, we have to make sure that we take care of ourselves as well as our families. There are a lot of people out there who don't have a primary care provider. It's very important that you have one, and to develop a good relationship with that primary care provider.
You also want to ensure that you have a specialist that can, such as a women's health nurse practitioner or OBGYN, or just a healthcare provider that specializes in your needs.
Welcome back. I hope you all enjoyed our first half of our show where we are talking about our sheroes. Those are the women who have poured into us and made us who we are today, as I mentioned earlier on in the show. And those women who we just celebrate on a day to day basis. As Phyllis said earlier, it's every day is Mother's Day to us. But I know not only are our mothers our sheroes, we have those women in our community who have been our sheroes. And as we talk a little bit more here, within the show, you'll learn about some of the other people that we consider to be our sheroes. But with that being said, I want to turn things over to Dr. Betty Baye and let her tell us who her shero is.
And if you run into any of members of my family, my first cousins, you will hear them call me Little Betty. And I am named after my mom, Betty. She was my shero, my first shero. And my mother is Betty Jane, and I'm Betty Dolores. I've got my mom and one of my father's sisters. And I was blessed because I had my mom, and I grew up in another generation from you all. And we lived up south in New York. So there was a village. And across the hall from my mother, there was Sarah Theola Newkirk, who became my godmother. And she was just Sarah Pender at the time. She wasn't married, didn't have children, and she took wonderful care of me and really supported my mother and father. I mean, she was truly a godmother and a godsend. And then 3 of my aunts lived in New York too. So I had my aunties down the hall and across the street. And so with my Aunt Catherine and my Aunt Bernice and my mother, the sisters were there in New York. And they were so, I just had this community of women that really were, it was like a nest. It was like an incubator. And one of the things that I really got from them, and especially from my Aunt Catherine, because in my generation, being a dark-skinned girl, was sort of like, people didn't think that I was pretty and whatever. Not me in particular, but just being dark. And I remember my Aunt Catherine saying, "You are so black and beautiful." And another aunt said, "Don't call her black." And Aunt Catherine said, "Well, she is, and she's beautiful." And so I just went walking through life thinking I was just the cutest thing, because they told me I was cute. And then you had to be smart and all of that. But my mother, this is like an extension of our Mama Said show. My mother was extremely wise, and my godmother was extremely wise. And my mother was fresh up from Maryland when she met my godmother, really. And my mother was, I guess, a little country, but my godmother taught her the ways of the ways of the big city. And so I think about them, those women, and I miss them, every one. But all of my aunts and they poured something in, as you said, poured something into me. And then there is, when I got to be 21, the woman who became my mentor. I met her. I was a secretary in the office where she was. She was an executive. And I was 21. And she said to me one day, she said, "When you grow up, you're going to be a hell of a woman." And I looked at her and said, "I am grown." And like, who is this? Because I had already been married and, I'm grown. And she was the one that told me, she said, "You are so smart. You need to go to college. You got opinions about everything. You need to go and get some sheepskin." She stayed with me for 7 years, pushing me to go to college because I was doing everything else but. And finally, when I got into school, for the next 7.5 years, every time I got another 3 credits or 4 credits or whatever, she would give me a book. And I have a very, very extensive African-American library because my mentor, that woman who is of Bajan descent, West Indian descent, and they really cherish education, and she pushed me. And then Lynn is just everything to me. And when I go to New York to visit, I always stop in and see Lynn, and she's 80. She's like 13 years older than me. She's in her 80s, baby, and she's still the same old Lynn. So I am blessed. I've had a village all my life, and me being childless, I tried to be a village to many of my younger friends. So I'm doing my thing as the childless woman that I feel like God gave me a role to play, to be a big sister and to be a mother to people that may not have any and who may want to partake of what I have to say because of what those women put into me.
I love it. I think Stephanie said earlier, I think we all have that common theme that our moms, grandmothers, those key women, our aunts have been the sheroes in all of our lives. And I know Phyllis says she had some other ones too, but before we go to Phyllis, I want to say another shero, and I think we all can agree, has been Breonna Taylor for all of us.
Oh.
I think she's been a shero, not only for me in the aspect as far as what she sacrificed. I know that wasn't her plan to sacrifice her life, but just what she has done for not only our city, our state, but our world overall by opening the eyes to things that needed to be changed in our various communities. She's another shero to me. Her mother, her family have gone through, and just what the changes that she has made in our community overall, and not just her, but all the other ladies and people who have had to, that we've lost due to the senseless violence and the racial inequalities and things, things that we've been dealing with, and we've been going through over the news and we watch on a day-to-day basis. So I definitely would want to mention her as a shero for not just us, but all women, Black women, white women, whatever color you are, just showing the things that should not be happening. I definitely feel that she's a shero that should be recognized.
Well, let me just add too, I just went to see the Breonna Taylor Memorial Commemorative exhibit at the Speed Museum. And I was so proud. And I hope if you haven't gone, that everybody in the community will get over to the Speed and see the museum and see how they are honoring Breonna with the cover photo of her that was on the front of Vanity Fair, the same woman that did Michelle Obama's portrait, did the portrait of Breonna. And Breonna is wearing the engagement ring that her boyfriend never got to give her. And she dressed her in blue because it was the color of scrubs, because she wanted to be a nurse. There's a lot of things that you could learn in that exhibit. And I would suggest that anybody who can, to get over there and see it. And there's the testimony from her mother about what happened that night. And I think that is true. We have to be the village. For me, for all the Breonnas, I think I would have liked her if I had gotten to meet her. I think I could have been a big sister to her.
So, just on the back of that, I also want to add Nicole, Hanna Jones. And I've become even more interested in who she is as a woman and how she is standing in the mix. So if you don't know her, she is the creator of the 1619 Project. And there's a lot going on right now, different philosophies and ideologies, and personally, just a lot of folks trying to shut her down. And when they try to shut her down and her journalistic the impetus for all of what she has done, they're shutting down our story. They're trying to change the narrative. And I am now encouraging my daughters as a result of that to look a little harder and understand the reasons behind why all of this is happening. And to understand, even at their age, what critical race theory is and why there is even more of a fight around what this woman has done in her discipline. And I was so angered, and my husband was probably angered even more, that she was denied tenure. I can't truly say that was the reason, but the stuff that gets under the rug. Yeah. And the real air and the real reason behind the way certain things happen.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to shout her out as well. So yes, I said her name right, Nicole Hanna Jones. So please, everybody, try and check that out and understand what that truly is about.
Okay, and I also thank you for sharing that. I definitely will. I'd like to learn more about her. I would like to add Dr. Jackie Walters. Although she is a public figure, she is on a reality TV show. I'm not sure that people know that she also is a founder of a foundation called 50 Shades of Pink Foundation. It's an organization that she established back in 2013. And her mission is to treat the inner and outer beauty of breast cancer survivors in both men and women. Her positive and vibrant attitude in life infused her with a dedication to this type of work. And so I try to live my life being almost a survivor in this realm and this new normal in my life, and being positive, and also mentoring so many women now, and even more women that have heard about my exclusive interview with the Miss Betty by A. I have more women now knocking on my door more than ever, but I feel now that's my calling, right? And it's my, I won't even say it's anything that I'm bearing. I feel like that's the path that I have been given to walk in life in this season. And I feel like we have to look at ourselves inwardly, right? We've been given this temple, right? And sometimes things happen. We don't know why. But after I read more about what Dr. Walters is doing in the community to help women and men who have been through such a tragic event, when you're talking about cancer, and then hearing about the things that she's doing and helping people inwardly, to look at the beauty within, and helping people to be more positive and understanding that piece of it, and just lifting people up. It just reminded me of myself. And so
yeah. So in other words, we have personal heroes and public heroes. We got our personal heroes and we have public heroes, and these are people who are doing things in life that we see, that we read about, that we read their work and stuff, and so we admire them. And I think that every girl, everybody, but every girl ought to have a hero, a Shero, ought to have somebody in her life who she really admires. And then the rest of the village starts to form around that. And I'm going to because I know I'm leaving it,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that, Miss Betty. I think that's great. And Stephanie, I want to say kudos to you for being a Shero for me, Miss Betty, and Miss Phyllis, for just fighting through. A lot of times we don't know where you have found the strength to do these shows. I'm not going to get emotional on you today, but we know we've all been praying through you as you are a survivor. We have planned that with you, prayed with you. So just thank you for being a Shero and just showing the strength that you've shown to all of us. When we know you have been struggling, but you've gotten on this show, face beat, clothes, coordinated everything, and fought through all of these, the tapings with us. So just we love you, we pray for you, and I just want to thank you for being a Shero for all three of us as you've gone through your journey, and as I said, being a survivor.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. As nothing but God. I don't know either. I wish I could give you every single day.
I wanted you to know we've got your back. Well, Miss Phyllis, I think it's time for some good God and good gossip from you.
Yes. This is the first one that I've given, and I was praying about it and just thinking about what I wanted to share. And so as I think about our topic this evening and our Sheroes and the journeys and the ones that have gone before us and their journeys, it just makes me think about how we have to continue to renew our spirit and renew our mind. And so what I want to share is, it is 1 Peter, the first chapter, 13th verse, and it's called to be holy. Called to be holy. And it reads, therefore, preparing your minds for action and being sober-minded, set your hope fully on the grace that will be brought to you in the revelation of Jesus Christ. So getting our minds, our hearts, all of that, and just set and reset. I mean, he never said it was going to be easy, but I give you what I need for you to have in all of these moments that I'm also giving to you. And so what I came up with, I love speaking to women and girls and the college students I work with too at Simmons College of Kentucky. I like to talk about building yourself up, because there's this thing out there called imposterism. Y'all heard me talk about it before, and it's just basically placating yourself and throwing yourself under the bus and not feeling like you're worth and understanding who you are. Okay. But the opposite of that, I just kind of coined some little term, and it's anti-imposterism. I'm not feeling all of that. I want to feel more of myself. In order to do that, I feel like there is more to branding than people understand. Corporations, institutions, organizations, they all do it. Why can't we? as individuals focus more on ourselves in that way. So I want to leave 5 quick tools that you can think about, that you can operationalize right now with regard to building your brand. People know I love to talk about brand. So the first one is believing in your potential. You got it. I don't care if you're 13 or 31 or 83, you have what you are supposed to have. Okay. It is your job to believe in your potential. And I have a coach that I follow, and he talks about, when you think about a generator, it doesn't just have the power, it has to create it. And so you always need to be about your work, in terms of your heart and your mind and your experiences, and your interactions. Number 2, you need to imagine how you're getting things done. We need to spend some time on truly understanding what productivity is and what it means and what outcomes you're trying to get from that. That's why this whole thing is called a practice. It's not just what goes on in a doctor's office or in a therapist's office. It's about your office,
Right.
Number 3, analyze your performance. What does success look like to you? Are you operating in your life minute to minute, hour to hour, flying by the seat of pants and all this? I don't have time for that anymore. But I can't do this alone. So I got to put myself in circles like this right here. I have to be willing to put myself out there and to take more risks, but to also assess where I am and what I am, and to continually understand whose I am.
No, that's right.
4, you got to nurture your skills and your competencies. Y'all, we got to keep growing. We cannot stop. I was getting down on myself one day. My daughter was like, "What's wrong with you, Mom? What's wrong with you?" And she was like, "You got this, girl. You got this." Like you be telling those other women, "You got this. Here, take some magic fingers." Like, I don't want the magic fingers right now, but I took them and I got my energy from her. And the last one, I just want us to understand that we have to go out and dominate our practice.
Oh.
And life is a practice. It ain't about what she's doing or what she's not doing. It's about you and where you are and what you're doing. It's so hard for you to take your eyes and look outward, but what about turning them around a little bit, and looking deep within to see what you need to be cleaning up. Just us. And so I love acronyms too. I started doing this at U of L. And all of that stands for brand. Believe, reimagine, analyze, nurture, and dominate. So ladies, y'all, let's get out here and let's brand or brand ourselves.
I love it. Love it. I love it. Love it. Love it.
Yes, thank you.
Love it.
We only got one life to live. I want to brand it.
Yes. Be our new motto, branding.
Yeah.
We wrap up another episode of Good Grief, Good Gospel, and Good God.
Yeah.
I do not want to end this show without saying congratulations, kudos. We are so proud of our class of 2021. I know Phyllis has a baby graduating. Look, put it up there, Phyllis. I'm proud of my Aiden. He is graduating. Look, I love it. I love it. He is graduating from 8th grade on Thursday. You all might have to get some values for me as this baby goes into high school because I'm so not ready. But just all of our class of 2021 graduates, from our St. Stephen graduates, our Louisville graduates, the entire city of Louisville, we are just so proud of all of you. And I also want to give a shout out to our 2020 graduates. They didn't get to have the normal graduation, and I'm so glad that the colleges and high schools have let them come back and have their moment. So congratulations to 2020, the class of 2020, class of 2021. G3 is beyond proud of you, and we look forward to seeing all of the great things that you all are going to do in your future.
And
all right, ladies,
be heroes.
Yes, be heroes, whatever it is, all of that. Well, we want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for another episode of Good Grief, Good Gossip, and Good God. And we hope that you will join us again next week. Be well.